Hello Booktube, I'm Scott.
I'm now.
We are Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, and this is our December books that we have read.
Wrap up.
That too. This is our new reading room that we are going to be filming in as well. Look, there's some nice plants behind me. There's this lovely bookshelf, which has all the books that I haven't read on it, except
Yeah, I think
it
you've read
doesn't.
most
They
of
got
all those.
moved.
Oh, yeah, I moved them.
Somebody has updated my bookshelf. I wonder what she has done with my TBR. I will have to find it.
Oh no.
It's like Easter. Instead of finding Easter eggs, I have to find books that I've already purchased.
This sounds like fun.
That sounds like fun. Hide and seek with books.
Yeah.
Right. What I'll do, I'll hide a book for you. I'll give you a hint like, Nell, this is a book that you really like from a Canadian author or something like that. Anyway.
How will that help me find it?
Well, because the thing is, there's lots of books in our house. What if you're like, I found the book you hid, and you're like, I didn't hide that book. Oh, I could drive you nuts if I just like never confessed to that book being the one that I hid.
I feel like you're a pesticle.
Yeah. Anyway, this has gone on to somewhat of a tangent.
Shock. Okay, I'm going first because I have an exciting announcement.
What's your announcement?
I finished an audiobook.
That's awesome.
It was so exciting. I sped it up. And that helped heaps. And I listened to it in the car on the way to and from work. And it took me like a week to read it like that. And that was awesome. It was an extra book.
So, in theory, you're going to get through a book a week now.
No, calm down. Look. I was able to listen to that at double speed. And I think that partially had to do with the narrator speaking very slowly and clearly.
Yeah.
But I do think it will increase how much I can read this year.
Yeah.
So exciting.
Yeah.
So exciting. So, the audiobook that I listened to was Know My Name by Chanelle Miller. And it made me angry. About things that I was already angry about. So, good.
Kim Jun, 1982, angry?
No, like, America and rape kits angry. Like, why do they even have them if they're not going to use them, test them, just store them correctly, like jeepers.
A broken system in a broken country.
It is so broken, and it's a system that is just
copies.
Yeah. The system is just as broken in Australia. It's just broken in different ways. The way people speak to victims of sexual assault is just gross. Just so much gross. So much gross. For anyone who isn't following along, Chanelle Miller is the name of a victim of rape. Her rapist is Brock, what's his face? Brock Turner, who's a douchebag. I
hope his testicles fall off.
I imagine he's not going to have a very good life because he's very recognisable. I mean, would you sit next to him at a party? Because I wouldn't.
I wouldn't know what it looks like.
Well, I do. Like, why don't you? Anyway, it was very public. The rape case was very public, and at the end of the rape case, Chanelle, or Emily Doe, as she was known then, read a statement, her victim impact statement she directed to the perpetrator of the crime rather than to the judge, and then that was published and went viral. It went nuts. So most people, I think, sort of know the story.
It's definitely been in the news quite a bit over the last few years because...
Yeah, well, I mean, it took 4 years to convict him. So it was a big, long, drawn-out case.
And the judge was so lenient
and just
him.
Like, the judge's comments were so douchey, and the impact statement made by Brock Turner's parents was gross. It was a case study in victim blaming and rape culture. It was gross. And Chanelle Miller's account of it, which is what the book Know Your Name is, it's her account of the legal process and her experience of that. It was just mortifying. It was horrible. I hate it. It hurts me in my soul that people I love would have to go through that experience to seek justice. And it makes sense that I don't know anyone who's ever, I know plenty of people who have been the victims of sexual violence, and I know no one who has a court judgment because of it. And no wonder they make the system so anti-victim and so horrible to go through.
It's definitely set up, like, when I was growing up and learning about the legal system, it's definitely set up that innocence is assumed, and that's something that we generally think of as a good thing, but at some point it's clearly been bastardized or twisted or something, and that women are not being protected, or even men are not being protected as well.
No,
victims are not being protected is what I mean to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, we live in a world where it's really much better to be somebody of power, somebody who is rich or with influence, and no more can you see that in rape, because it's always the powerful people. You're never going to see Donald Trump got raped by a homeless person. Like, like, that's not happening. It's the other way around.
Yeah.
So, and then the system protects the powerful because it's being twisted by them, and it's so evident, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's really, really gross. And there was so much. She did a really good job of highlighting the things that are changeable, the things that we could fix, the things that are properly broken. But she also did a really good job of highlighting, like, where the system was lovely to her and where she had a good experience. I mean, like, not that, waking up and finding out that you've been raped while you were unconscious is never going to be a good experience. But her experience of having the rape kit administered and having her initial testimony taken is actually quite a nurturing one. And her description of that is so reassuring that not everyone goes through that immediate accusatory horror show on day one. So they wait to day two sometimes. Like, that made me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
And it shows that you can, as an individual, make a difference by being in the right place and doing the right work. So that was my first book.
So, were it recommended?
Oh, highly recommended. Everyone should read it. If you don't know what's wrong with our justice system, it'll teach you.
It sounds lovely.
Yeah, I don't know that I would call it an enjoyable book, but it was definitely a worthwhile book.
All right, what's the next book you read? Move it along.
Move it along.
Move it along. Hurry up. We've got so many books to get through now.
How many books have you got to get through?
12. But are you always trying to hurry me along? I was trying to...
That's because you've got 12. I've got 5. I can talk as long as I want.
Yeah. Solo winner of the 2019 Booker Prize.
I have definitely confirmed that I think that should have been the case. Girl, Women, Other by Bernadine Evaristo was delicious.
Yeah, it was a good book, isn't it?
So nicely written, just gorgeous. I wasn't sure that it was going to be all that it was hyped to be. About halfway through, I was like, oh yeah, it's nice. But it really does stay with you. And just the collage and the contrast of each of the very individual characters that this is a portrait of, it's just so well done. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this.
It's got a lot of good rep in it as well, like disabled rep and trans rep, and
yeah, everyone's in it.
Everyone's in it, yeah.
It's like an actual sort of cross-section of people. Well, ladies, mainly.
Yeah, well, it's about
But
black
even-
women in the UK, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but even the men who are side characters and stuff, they're all varied and different, and you know, and it's not just about race, and it's not just about sexuality, and it's not just about like it's very broad, and because of that, I think there's a temptation to say it doesn't say much, but I think it says quite a lot.
Yeah. I think it does. I like how it could be a bunch of short stories, but that towards the end it becomes really obvious how it is
Connected,
and that that's not a gimmick. It adds to it.
Yeah, look, I've seen that sort of structure done before. I don't think I've ever seen it done quite this well. I've seen it come close.
Homecoming by Gasai is pretty good as well. Homegoing.
I haven't finished that, so I can't comment. But I don't think it's a new technique. But I do think that this is probably the best example of it.
Yeah.
Or if not the, then one of.
A very good example of. So again, this one highly recommended, yeah? Mm-hmm. Next. The Chicken Book.
The Chicken Book. If you saw our little game that we played in Vlogmas, this is the Chicken Book. I read The Passion by Jeanette Winterson. This was awesome. I really loved this. Some of the writing in it was just ridiculously good. And
you have mangled that book.
I have reverted to my bogan roots, and I've folded pages, and I didn't have any little
wearing
stickers.
moccasins in public, and
look, I'm not, but
you
I will
would
if
if you
you
owned a
like.
pair.
I would if it wasn't so hot.
Yeah, fair enough. Thongs.
Bongers. I can't wait to read more of Jeanette Winterson, is what I want to say about this. This is not, I don't feel like this is the one that people recommend, but it was so good.
Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit is the real famous one, isn't it?
I think that's her first.
It's like a semi-autobiographical one.
And this is definitely not. This is set in Napoleonic France / Venice / Russia.
Excellent.
It's just gold.
Well, I want to read that one in 2021.
You should. It's a real short one, but it was really dense and layered, and it had lots in it, and we could talk about it for a bit.
I've put it on my list.
On your list?
On my LGBT books I'm
on
going to
your
read.
mega list.
On the 2021 mega list of books I'm going to read in the year. That's
so
one
I'll
of
have forgotten about it by the time
the
we get
queer
to it.
books. Oh, I could get through it earlier. We buddy read this with Sean the Book Maniac.
Bailed.
After 36 pages, Sean the Book Maniac bailed.
And I should have joined him.
It would have been so satisfying after he bailed so early to
be like,
say,
ooh, it's so good.
this is the best book I've ever read.
Except it's not.
Except everything Sean said about it was completely correct, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
It was 100% right.
Spot on. All the things that he said were going to happen, happened. We're going to have a longer chat about this one, I think, because it wasn't a complete waste of space. It was an okay book.
I think the premise for this book is one of the best premises. The premise made me happy.
Yeah.
And that kind of was it. So the premise is 4 homeless people find a winning lottery ticket and win $13.5 million between them.
Sounds awesome.
That sounds like a lovely novel.
I definitely wouldn't call this lovely. It's got some grit and some bleakness.
Does it? I mean, could you tell?
The grit could be grittier. I don't know. We'll talk about it later. I feel like
it was like Mitch Albom tried to write something gritty. Do you have one more book?
I have one more book. I've dropped it.
You've dropped it.
This one. The last book that I read for the year. Goodbye 2020. Girls Burn Brighter. This was hard going. This was like really easy to read, but the first on the opening page, it says, well, maybe it's not the opening page. Where is it? Oh. On the front cover.
What's it say?
It says, Incandescent, a searing portrait of what feminism looks like in much of the world. And that stuck with me throughout the whole book. Because as quite a privileged, well-off white person who considers himself to be an intersectional feminist, this was brutal. Like, and had me Googling, how much does that happen?
So, where is this book set?
So it starts in India and it ends in the States, but for the most part we're in sort of what I would call, not rural, because it's not agricultural, but like small town India.
There was a story I saw on Facebook of an Indian woman who was locked in a bathroom by her husband, and the police came in and rescued her, and she was so malnourished they had to like piggyback her out of there, and she was so tiny because
it is so common for women's husbands and in-laws to punish them by scarring their face, that the question that these women are asked when they seek medical treatment is oil or acid.
Oh, they burn them.
They burn them. It's horrible. And that is not the most horrible thing that I learned in this book.
Oh.
It's violent to be a woman in India, apparently. I don't know how common these experiences are, but they certainly made me want to learn more about that sort of gendered violence domestic violence is a thing everywhere, and it's incredibly common, and I don't believe in diminishing the experiences of women who are abused in different ways, but
everybody's experience is different,
but I didn't know about these experiences, and it was very eye-opening to me. I had heard of women had acid thrown on them, but I really thought that was quite an isolated, I did not know that was a common occurrence. And it's just horrible. What the book actually centers on is the friendship between two girls, and that is the guiding light that gets you through, because otherwise you would just be in a pit of sorrow, and I guess that's the point. It's their guiding light that gets them through too. So
it sounds like it could be a bit like 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. I know you've read Kite Runner, but
yeah, I've not read that one.
It's Kite Runner is quite brutal, but it's about men. But 1,000 Splendid Suns is about women in married to a man.
Yeah, okay.
And the same level of brutality.
Yeah. It was beautifully written, and I will read Shobha Rao again. Tough going though.
So you recommend this book, but it's a bit...
Yeah, just be prepared. I didn't know anything about it really. I bought it in a big haul, and all I knew was it was the most in that huge haul video that I did. It was the book that got the most comments, so that's one of the reasons why I picked it up. But yeah, it was a lot.
It sounds like you've had a pretty good ratio there. 4 books that have blown you away, 1 book that is lukewarm.
Yeah.
But 80% is a pretty good ratio.
No, I had a really good reading month. And, my excitement of being able to audiobook, I cannot even tell you.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's you're gonna get through so many more books.
Yeah.
All right, I shall open my list so I can talk about mine, shall I?
Yes.
All right. The first book I read for the month was Sukibane by Douglas Stuart. Now, if you don't know about Sukibane yet, I don't know what you're doing watching BookTube. Sukibane won a prize called the Booker, and it is about a lady's struggle with alcoholism, and it is told through the point of view of her younger son. Not the point of view, but essentially the younger son and the mother are the 2 main characters, so Agnes and Shuggie. It's set in Scotland in the 80s, and this book makes you so angry that this lady is doing it so hard, and I feel very silly talking about this book after you've talked about Girls Born Brighter and... but this woman is raped by her husband. This woman has, he's left by her husband. Her husband beats her. This woman finds out her husband is leaving her by virtue of the fact that they're moving, and he moves everybody, and then he doesn't bring any of his stuff in, and he drives off. Like,
awesome.
Yeah. And he still comes and visits them. My biggest criticism of this book is that it shouldn't be called Sukibane. It should be called Agnes Bain. Agnes is the main character of this book. This is the life story of Agnes Bain, and it is a terribly sad novel. It's her struggle with alcoholism, and then Shuggie is kind of like a bright light in this novel, but kind of not, because it's so horrible for Agnes, This is one of the saddest books I've ever read. It's done very well. Like, it really... Worse things have happened in novels, but you get very invested in these characters. It's lovely writing, lovely wordplay, uses quite a lot of Scots words, but when you can hear somebody really turn on the Scots, and you're like, I need to slow that down, write that down. Let's just go through that one word at a time. That is not the case here. It's just, it's done really well. You know exactly what has been said, but it's so well done. This is a 5-star read. I don't think I've seen anybody on BookTube who has not liked it, except for one instance, which
we'll see how that goes.
We'll see how that develops in January, will we? All right. The next one I read was The Knife of Dreams by Robert Jordan, which was the billionth book in the Wheel of Time, and I'm still slogging through. This is the last one that he wrote on his own. This is the last one he completed before he passed away. He has 3 more.
Oh, I see what your hope is.
Well, I want to know how the story ends. It's just that it hasn't developed. In the last 4 novels, only one of the books have actually developed the storyline, and I'm like, what's going on? And also, some of the stuff that happens in the storyline is so just whatever. Like, one of the characters is being tortured by somebody essentially smacking them with a slipper every day, and then healing them so that they can smack them some more. And I'm like, no, that's not that's not torture. That's just that is just physical. I could tolerate that. I
feel like eventually that might wear down your brain, but
yeah, it'd just get boring after a bit.
Yeah.
So I found it so lacking is what I found it. And it didn't address the storyline. It didn't progress it, rather. And yeah, so I'm really hoping these last 3 books like do something. I'm really hoping the story finishes in these last 3 novels, because there's so many balls in the air.
And if you get to the end and it's not all nicely...
Yeah, I know, like, I started this when I was, like, in my early 20s. I stopped. I am rereading it now. I really do want to know how the storyline ends. I'm not enjoying the writing anymore. Like, it's just so...
Because it's terrible.
It's so long-winded, and it's so lacking in flavour and grit. It's like somebody said, I'll have ice cream. Do you want vanilla? No, vanilla's got too much flavour. Just ice cream without the...
Flavouring.
Like, just make it milk.
Yeah, milk. I'll have some cold milk.
Yeah. Alright. Well, I can't say that the next book I read... Where is it? Here it is. I can't say the next book I read didn't elicit emotions in me, but I didn't like it. American Psycho by Bret, Easton, Ellis. What to say about this book? The first thing about this book you'll notice is like all the constant brand name droppings, and this is the story of a Wall Street executive who likes to murder people in their spare time. It's essentially the portrait of an American psycho. It's an allegory for society, and some of what Bret Easton Ellis is saying is kind of interesting, except that it isn't, because he could have said that in a novella, right? It could have been a nice thin novella, easy to get through. Instead, he goes on and on and on for way too many pages, repeating himself with this same asinine, let's drop the celebrity name, let's drop Ralph Lauren, let's drop Dolce & Gabbana, let's continue doing that until you're bored with it. I did enjoy the worship of Donald Trump in a pre-Trump society as a way of mocking the characters. I did enjoy that. So then there's all that, and then the murders start to happen, and the murders start off as relatively horrible and progressively get worse until you are reading the sickest, most fucked up shit I have ever read in a novel ever. He should be locked up. Like,
for having that imagination.
And it's like, you know, when it's an author insert character. It's an author insert character. It just is, right? Like, this is shit that he's thinking, right? And I just don't... Some of the stuff is... I just don't want to repeat it, but...
Yeah.
Like, I have a Goodreads review where I say one of the more horrible scenes in it, so if you want to...
Get a gauge. But essentially, do I recommend this book to anybody living alive? No. Does it have literary merit? Is it actually a clever bit of writing? Yes. Will you enjoy it? No. Should you read it? No, you should burn this book. Absolutely horrible. Yeah. He's put it on the floor. So going on the shelf with the other books.
Do you know what we're not doing with this book? We're not unhauling it into a little free library so that some poor unsuspecting sucker can pick it up and read some of the... there is something wrong with Bret Easton Ellis. And it's his brain.
Fair call.
I got so bored with that book. What I did was I read the ending, but not the ending.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, good. He's being chased by cops. Something is going to happen. I wish I didn't do that. I wish I just DNF'd it, because that was a misadvertising. So if you do read it, if you do give it a go, once you understand what's going on, which is really early on in the book, just stop. He's just repeating himself. much like my review of this, I have got a bit worked up. All right.
All right, what's next?
A Clergyman's Daughter by George Orwell. This is my final Orwell. I have read all 9 of his books and novels. So his non-fiction and his fiction.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So where to start with this one? This is the story of a vicar's daughter. The vicar is running up debts and is expecting the daughter to like look after the house. So the daughter's like, can I have some money to pay the butcher? And the vicar's like, I gave you money for the whole quarter at the start of the quarter. You'll just have to make it last. And she's like, well, it hasn't lasted. And he's like, why not? Because you insist on the best cuts of meat. Because you insist on that. And then he's like, well, they should be happy with their debt to us. Like, I'm a gentleman sort of thing. And she's trying to manage this debt. And I thought, this is going to be a pretty typical Orwell novel. This is about money. This is about financial stress. This is about this poor woman in this situation where she's trying to look after her father as the best housekeeper she can. And she's trying to placate these tradesmen. And she can't do both. And she's going to have to... And then it's going to be a Money is Evil George Orwell story, which he's done in Keep the Aspidistra Flying, for example, and millions of other novels. And then chapter 2 starts, and suddenly she wakes up in London with no memory of what's happened, with amnesia. And I really thought that that would make this book interesting, and it doesn't.
Well, that's an indictment.
It doesn't. Like, it's... So, after reading this book, I checked out some reviews on Goodreads, and there was a quote from George Orwell which basically said, I'm not happy with this novel. Please don't reprint it. Oh. Right? So, Orwell didn't want you to read this book, and I wish I had have known that going into it, because I don't think I would have.
Yeah, okay.
It does have a really weird chapter in it. He wrote an entire chapter in song, like play with song, like it's done to music. And what is really lacking with that is that he tells you what music it's to, but it's all like church hymns and stuff that I don't know. And I imagine that you would have known 100 years ago when it was written,
or if you went to church.
Or if I did go to church when I was a child. I don't know these hymns.
You're not very musical, though.
I'm not very musical, no. And certainly not as a child.
I can't imagine it's gotten better. Has it gotten better?
Yeah. Yeah, it has.
I'm shocked.
I mean, I was still invested in the story, but then the other thing, Orwell... This is the only Orwell book with a woman as the main character rather than a man. And it really points out that Orwell struggles with women, but he struggles with women in this weird way. He's like, you know, developing the scene, and you've got the woman's thoughts going through your head, and then she does something. You're like, that is not how any right-minded woman will respond to that. And then he like does this thing which is essentially... Psych, not doing that, right? And you're like, well, I guess, like, you know, like, she changes her mind, or what, like, she was imagining what will happen, and then she's like, well, but I won't do that, sort of thing. And so you're always wondering, can you write women, or are you, like, trying to pretend that you can't write women, and that you actually can write women? Like, what's going on? But... I'm sort of left with the impression that he can't write women very well. Probably better than a lot of men of his time, but I'm left with that feeling. I am left overall with the last couple of Orwell books. I'm left with a very watered down view of him. Unfortunately, I feel he may be lacking in a lot of his ideas, which is unfortunate.
It's not surprising though, because he did kill an elephant.
He did kill an elephant. Yeah. So I rated this 3 stars. It's all right if you're a completionist. It's not terrible.
Yeah.
It's got some interesting stuff. I can actually see where this was a novel written before Keep the Aspidistra Flying, and I actually would almost say that Orwell sort of started this one and then like ripped ideas out and wrote Keep the Aspidistra Flying, which is one of his best novels.
Yeah.
But yeah. The next one I read was The Secret Adversary by Agatha Christie. So this one surprised me a little bit because I'm waiting for the murder to happen, and this is a spy novel, and and I was like, no, it's just got a spy flavour to it. It's Agatha Christie. It's a murder mystery.
And it's not.
And it's not.
Did you enjoy it anyway?
It was fluff. It was 3 stars. It was fine. If you like Agatha Christie, read it. It's enjoyable. But whatever. I won't be pursuing the Tommy and Tuppence series until I am out of Marple and Pyro.
Okay. What's next?
Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens.
I'm really pleased you read this.
Yeah, I'm not.
Because now I don't have to.
Because now you don't have to. I said when I was going to pick this up, I said in my TBR, I said I've seen a whole bunch of really positive reviews from one corner of Goodreads.
Booktube.
Booktube. Oh, I'm sorry, Booktube. I didn't mean to muddy you with that comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I hadn't seen any from the more literary side of it. Not that anybody I watch doesn't read literary fiction, but you know, there is definitely
we've got a snobbier end of town.
Yeah. And after I said that, I had a couple of people say, well, actually, and I maybe would have been less keen to read it if I had have known their opinions. Because you often, you know, you find the average of your opinions in other people. And
yeah.
you know. This is a story of a lady who grows up in the marshes and the swamps and is like mistreated by society and by everybody around her, and you see the story of her life. At the same time, you keep flashing back to, or flashing forward, you don't know, well, you figure out that it's a flash forward pretty soon actually, to a murder, and more information about this murder takes place as you listen to Kia's life, and then the storylines merge, and then Kia is put on trial for the murder of the man. And I just think that the way this wrapped up was absolutely terrible, and I don't believe that it could have happened like that. I just don't believe
the ending.
Like,
that's a good book.
I'm like, basically, if you wanted to make that the ending, you needed to be a better writer throughout the start of the book. Like, that is just, it's poor writing. You needed to foreshadow that a bit harder. You needed to put some clues in, but
could you have done a Scott and missed all the clues?
No, she actually she deliberately wanted me to think the opposite, and she did too good a job of making me think the opposite. She didn't leave enough doubt
for it to be possible to swing the other way, which
probably spoils the book for anybody who's going to read it.
Sorry, but apparently it's tried.
But it's crap. So well, that wasn't the biggest disappointment of the month. The biggest disappointment of the month was The Little Friend by Donna Tartt. When Donna Tartt takes 10 years to write her books, and I shouldn't say after 10 years of work, it feels like a really rudimentary first draft. It didn't stick together. I had no idea the characters aged throughout the book until like midway through the book. It was so watery. The events just didn't flow into each other. it was lacking polish. And then on top of that, I've read Secret History. Secret History really immerses you in classics in Greek, and you really get a feel that Donna Tartt has researched the crap out of this subject and she knows it. I've read Goldfinch, and again, it's the same with art dealing, paintings, antiques, that sort of stuff. There is no topic here. There is no topic that Donna Tartt has centered this book around. It does, and look, the premise of this book, the story of this book is actually, it is so playing to exactly what I would like. A boy is murdered. His younger sister wants to find the killer and goes on and investigates the killer. The timelines are so mished and mashed that I'm struggling to tell whether this younger sister is 4, 24, or 14. Like, it's
frustrating.
It's frustrating. And you know what? I fully expect that there will be lots. In fact, I know that there are people out there who love this book, because if you can get past that wishy-washy writing, then it's actually probably awesome. But it is like
not what you expected.
If you broke the binding on this book, you wouldn't be able to put the pages back together in order by reading it. Like,
he's a hard man.
Yeah, I'm mean. All right, let's discuss young adult. So I said in one of my videos or in comments somewhere, I said I always feel tricked when I pick up young adult. And I picked up young adult. I picked it up deliberately because after reading that Donna Tartt book, I felt like I needed to give my brain a break. Oh. So I picked up Akweake Emezi's Pet.
Yeah, okay.
Because I wanted to see what she would do.
Yeah.
And I really liked this. This was joyful, this book. We have a transgendered girl, her best friend. She is, I want to say she's deaf, but she's not. She talks in sign, and that's all that's really...
So she's mute.
But sometimes she speaks.
Selective mutism.
So, yeah, so I'm a bit confused as to what is what with that, but it's fine. I thought it was good to have people talking by sign in a book and just have that be the same way somebody will have blue eyes, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was good. Then this girl's mother paints stuff, and in the girl is looking at one of her mum's drawing, which is this like a demonic thing. In the process of doing that, she somehow brings this painting to life, and this painting is obsessed with finding the monsters in society. And it's a really simple but lovely allegory for society, and I really like how vague Emezi is with their writing for this novel. They leave everything so open-ended that you can assume, you know, she does... they don't say what's happening. They say, he's been hurt. She's been hurt. Like, that's all that is said. They don't say why or how, and it's implied. But is it implied, or have I put my own?
Yeah.
And so when I look at that, and then I go, but it could also be this, or this, or this, and it's an allegory for society, and there are critiques of capitalism. There's critiques of corruption. It is wonderful. Very simple, very easy to read. I love how easy on the brain it was and how complex it was at the same time. It really it let my brain take a break, and then it put a carrot in front of it. So it was just lovely. So very much recommend that. Recommend that when you're having a bit of a brain dead day, but you still want a bit of a brain workout, you know?
Yeah.
Then I've got the best book I read for the month, maybe the best book I read for the year. At this point, I was pretty certain I knew what my best book for the year was, and then I picked up Rohinton Mistry, A Fine Balance. This is a story of 4 people during set in India during the period known as the Emergency, and it details corruption, mistreatment. It examines things like the untouchables and how they're treated differently by society. It talks about the roles of women. It talks about the roles of government, and it's just so... It taught me so much about India that I didn't know. And it taught me stuff about India that I didn't know, which is, I love it when a book teaches me stuff. It taught me stuff about a period of time that I had very little knowledge about. It goes through the entire period of Indira Gandhi's presidency, finishing with her assassination. But the thing that I really liked, I have been to India not for, I haven't been there for a long time, and I didn't stay for very long when I went there. But the way a lot of Indian people were speaking to me and treating to me is different to how I was used to. And it was just, I felt like by reading this book, I understood those people better. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
The other thing that was so delicious in this book was the exploration of corruption, and essentially what would happen over and over again was somebody would be mistreating somebody else, and they would basically appeal to them saying that this is ridiculously unfair, and they go, it is unfair, but if I don't do this, I will get in trouble, so I am doing this to protect myself. Like, I am trying to kick you out of your home because I need my job, and if I don't have my job, I will be kicked out of my home. So it gave you a real good idea into how power structures work and how corruption works and how those sort of things work. The basic story of this is a widow starts a tailoring business. She hires 2 untouchables to be the tailors. They make stuff. She has a tenant live in with them, and the 4 of them become friends, and they get to know each other, and they sort of battle society
To the death.
I don't want to say too much more about this book because I don't, but this is such a good book. I can't recommend this book enough. The writing is beautiful. The themes in it is so good, and like everything is so interconnected. And at the end of this book, you're like, what was that stuff about all the hair? And then you're like, oh, but early on, Dina had her hair cut off. Like, and then like you're piecing together things after you've read it that you it's so well crafted. It's such a good book. I'm going to move on because my thoughts haven't really settled on that yet.
Yeah.
I feel like I almost need to reread it to get it. I was getting towards the end of the month, and I realised that I wasn't going to achieve my goal of reading an author from a country that I hadn't read before. I picked up She Would Be King by Waitu Moore. This is a Liberian novel, and I just could not stand the writing of this. I realised I had no idea what was happening, that the words were not touching the brain, that it was just nothing.
Yeah.
So I DNF'd that one. That's my only DNF for the month, and there's a few that I should have DNF'd. So then I found another Liberian author, I hope. But His Only Wife by Peace Adzo Medie. This was a really interesting novel, and I was really drawn to it. So the author is half Liberian, half Ghanese, or she was born in Liberia and moved to Ghana. The story of this book is we start with a woman who is at her wedding day getting married, and she is getting married in absence because while she's in Ghana, her husband is closing a business deal in Hong Kong. Right. And he calls her on the phone and apologizes for not being there, but this is a really important business deal. Anyway, so apparently that's a thing that can happen in Ghana. I don't understand. But she then moves to this house, and she's given a lot of money by this man, and she's given her own personal driver, and she's got everything she needs, and her mum moves in with her for a bit, and the other thing, it's an arranged marriage by her mother and somebody else, and she doesn't meet the husband for like 2 months. And then when she does meet the husband, the thing is, she's like, where is he sleeping? And she asks the people that she speaks to, like including the husband's brother, where is he sleeping? What is he doing? And the whole time we know that she has been set up with him and they've been married off because there was this other woman who nobody approved of. And so that he's leaving the other woman to be with her, but he's not met her yet. In the end, they meet, and then the storyline goes from there. And it's a real interesting exploration of marriage inequality in Ghana. And clearly it is quite common in Ghana that rich men can take multiple wives. And it was an exploration of that. So I quite enjoyed this novel. I found it really easy to digest. Really enjoyed the writing style. Not the best book I have ever read, but it was quick, it was easy, it was lovely. I will read more by Peace Adzo Medie. Just nice. I enjoyed that writing style. So I'll read more from her.
Awesome.
So the next one I read was Ragged Company, which we've already discussed. And then the last book I will discuss is Weird Sisters by Terry Prattchet. Now, I don't know whether I should put this in my December wrap, because I've technically finished it in January. I finished it this morning.
He's a cheater.
But when I put it on Goodreads, it counted it towards my books read for 2020, because it's still 2020 in America while we're filming.
Right.
So I suspect that in Goodreads headquarters, wherever that is, they're like, you've still got a few hours. You got that one easy. And I'm like, no, I didn't. I finished it at lunchtime. But whatever. Look, Terry Prattchet, you know what you're getting on the tin. If you've read a Terry Prattchet novel, this is another one. I don't really know what more to say. This is one of the Winterson novels. This is a retelling, and retelling in the loosest sense of the word, because it really takes the storyline a long way from its original, but is a retelling of Macbeth, including the bit where Prattchet decided that, considering Macbeth is a play and they would have actors playing it, that he'd have to include the actors in his retelling of it and have them be characters.
He's really a man, isn't he?
He's hilarious. Hilarious. This is silly. This is Terry Prattchet. It's just, yeah. I mean, is it...
Sounds like a good start to the year.
Is it a particularly highbrow novel? No. Have I given it a high star rating? Nope. Did I enjoy it? Yep. It's... You have to, like, pay attention with Terry Pratchett. He has a lot of jokes in it, and a lot of those jokes are boobs and farts, but, you know, lots of those jokes are quite intelligent jokes as well. So if you're not well read, you might not get some of the Shakespeare jokes that he has included in there. But, yeah, that was joyful. That's it.
You're done. For the year.
For the year. That is all the books I've read for the year.
That's it.
That's it. If you've got to the end, thank you for watching all the way through.
Tell us what you think of any of these books that you've read or want to read.
Tell us why we're wrong about
anything.
Anything, yeah. That's always a good conversation.
Like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye.